doubling both his attributes and the damage he takes. Smirking as the curse locked on, the red-eyed leader revealed his own hidden class, the Executioner, stolen from an American killer, which let him stack infinite kills without ever triggering the system's judgment and dump those stacks onto anyone he chose. He was still boasting about trapping the strongest player in the game when Shadow cut him clean in half. For a second our boy was confused, wondering why the man had not used Soulwalker to dodge, until it clicked. The red-eyed leader had let the strike land on purpose, just to get close enough to finish the curse, and even as he died he pulled out a glowing card to read Shadow's fate. At that same moment, Shadow triggered his blooming curse through Theodore's card, and glowing red spider lilies bloomed around him while the system processed his enormous kill stacks. Above the ruined city, the sky twisted into a terrifying crimson vortex, and Huang Ziqing and Song Xiaoyu laughed hysterically, celebrating that their trap had finally summoned the ultimate disaster. A blood-red omen star formed in the churning clouds exactly as the ancient prophecy described, then began to descend to purge everything in its path, and then the system spelled out what was coming for him. A level 999 mythic-grade executioner of slaughter has arrived to execute Shadow for his extreme kill stacks. Chaos erupted across the city beneath a churning blood-red sky as players panicked over the sudden arrival of a level 999 mythic boss. Before anyone could react, bright blue teleportation beams hit the rooftops, alerting Captain Anyu that another wave of players was warping in. She looked up in shock as foreign players from the American server stepped out of the light, leaving everyone stunned that an entire strike force had managed to cross continental borders and invade Great Xia. Crashing into the ruins like meteors, the invaders sent local defenders flying and instantly shattered their defensive lines. Dark purple energy erupted everywhere as more foreign fighters arrived, cutting off every exit and completely trapping Captain Anyu's squad. The enemy vanguard ordered their troops to eliminate every defender and rescue their allies, quickly tearing through the front lines and cutting defenders down. Wang Meng noticed the invaders were boosted by over 30 stacked buffs. While panic spread and squad members called for a retreat, Captain Enyu stood firm and commanded everyone to fight back with everything they had. Raising his heavy shield, Wang Meng charged into the enemy onslaught beside Captain Enyu, determined to hold the line and buy Shadow time. At the same time, Shadow pieced the puzzle together. The enemy had set up this inescapable death trap to eliminate Great Xia's strongest fighter, and only Theodore's card magic could teleport players across continents like this. He also figured out the red-eyed leader's trick, recalling how the man had used skills from various classes whose original owners were dead, confirming he possessed a hidden class that stole abilities from the deceased. High above, the Executioner of Slaughter locked onto Shadow and his 586 kill value stacks. After scanning his stats and rating him as a B-rank threat, the mythic boss began its extermination protocol. The Executioner dove down, unleashing a storm of high-speed slashes across the city. Shadow cleanly wove through the attacks, knowing the boss would relentlessly hunt its target until they were dead. Making things worse, every slash bypassed shields and armor entirely, meaning a single hit would instantly destroy the target's soul. A single mistake meant permanent death in both worlds, but even against this impossible monster, Shadow knew it still had one major weakness. He countered with a venomous dart, taking advantage of the fact that the boss had zero resistance against crowd control and status effects. As poison damage ticks ate into the Executioner's health, Shadow calculated that continuously dodging and stacking debuffs would eventually wear the monster down. However, Shadow was only level 30 while the boss sat at level 999 with 130 billion health. At that rate, chipping through that massive health pool would take an entire month of non-stop dodging. Watching nearby, Zentil and Song Xiaoyu froze in disbelief as Shadow dodged every strike from the level 999 boss and even countered, making them wonder if he was even human. Just then, the leader of the American reinforcements arrived, placing a hand on their shoulders and ordering the squad to jump in and disrupt Shadow's rhythm. Soon after, Huang Ziqing reappeared leading a mind-controlled army, boasting that the invaders had crushed the local defenders and taken full control of the battlefield. He commanded his horde to charge forward and activated his abyssal domain, swallowing the area in dark energy. The Executioner unleashed another flurry of slashes while sticky mud covered the ground to trap Shadow. Even so, he stayed calm, slipping under the blades and leaping clear of the sludge. Huang Ziqing laughed from the high ground, gloating that with Shadow's skills locked away and a 99% slow pinning him down, he could not dodge any longer. Certain the mythic Executioner would turn Shadow into minced meat, he screamed at him to accept his death. Shadow simply scoffed, calling him an idiot. He revealed that every move had been calculated to lure the executioner right in front of the giant Nine Realms Stone Overseer, catching Zeking completely off guard. The executioner dove down for the finishing blow, but Shadow activated his boots of intangibility, removing his collision box and letting him phase through solid matter for 3 seconds. As Shadow phased straight into the giant golem, the executioner's lethal strike crashed directly into the Stone Overseer instead, since the domain disabled class skills but not active equipment effects. The defense-ignoring strike tore through and shattered the golem completely. In that exact second, Shadow struck the exposed sacrifice core with his blade of judgment, cutting down the blasphemer hiding inside. A blinding light swallowed the battlefield as Shadow and the goddess Asathis were transported directly to the cosmic place of judgment. Bound to a glowing cross, Xiaoyu screamed in terror upon recognizing the trial grounds from her past life, horrified that she had fallen right back into Qin Feng's hands. Shadow coldly looked down at the blasphemer, Qin Xiaoyu, and announced that her judgment had officially begun. Shadow declared that his divine judgment had begun. Xiaoyu lost control, screaming at Qin Feng that he had no right to judge her when she had done nothing wrong. But the system ignored her, digging into her soul and shattering her mind into countless memory fragments from both of her lives. Among the floating shards, Shadow spotted a crucial memory, the moment the red-eyed leader found her and woke the divine sin sleeping inside her. In the flashback, the man called her by her real name, and she demanded to know who he was. He claimed he had come to help her surpass Shadow and become the strongest player in the world, and she asked how. He pulled out a glowing fate card to read her fortune, but the sight of it brought back the memory of a reading that nearly got her killed. She scrambled away, screaming for him to stay back. To calm her, he transferred 10 years of lifespan into her account, since she was down to her last few days, and reminded her that inside the game, death would only cost half her lifespan before she respawned. He even offered a safe zone meeting plus free gear and high-level carries. Moments later, a friend request from a mysterious player named Ji pinged her screen. Swallowing her doubts, Xiaoyu accepted. The red-eyed leader then channeled power through his card and triggered a prophecy from the star god. No rebirth could erase the past, and the flower of kinslaying would bloom again when the moon cast its dark shadow over the sky. Back in the cosmic trial grounds, Shadow wondered who this Ji really was and what the dark prophecy meant. Just then, the system declared Xiaoyu guilty of blasphemy for stealing the eye of the ancient god. She begged him not to punish her for sins that never happened in this timeline. She screamed that Qin Feng was not blameless either, but the verdict locked in, and Shadow coldly ordered the execution. Blinding light swallowed her, and when it faded, she was kneeling in a peaceful town square. Suddenly, a brutal attack stabbed through her from behind, and she turned to find Song Fei smirking down at her. Heartbroken, she asked why the man she loved wanted her dead. But he only laughed, sneering that she was just an obsessed fan and thanking her for helping him claim a divine artifact. As dark branches ripped through her body, the system locked in her punishment. She would relive this betrayal by the person she loved most, forever. With the blasphemer judged, the system upgraded Shadow's blade of judgment. The blade awakened into a monstrous new form. Its power jumped from 800 to nearly 3,000. Its speed soared, and his divinity cap broke past the 1,000 mark. Shadow realized the blade now matched a level 100 endgame weapon, everything he needed to shred any epic boss in record time. Meanwhile, on the real battlefield, the enemy army watched the giant golem collapse and realized that by phasing inside it, Shadow had vanished from the boss's radar. One invader suggested finishing off the helpless golem, but the leader shut him down, since their squad was built for PvP and would barely scratch an epic boss. Instead, Huang Ziqing grinned and pushed the team to bury the whole area in traps, ready to delete Shadow the second he stepped out. The enemies got to work at once, filling the ground with explosive barrels, paralysis runes, charm circles, shadow tentacles, toxic mushrooms, and trick boxes. One player even tossed dung pies into the pile. None of them noticed Chibi quietly counting the soldiers below, smiling as he decided the crowd was finally big enough for his move. Down below, the Alliance laughed smugly at the trap field, sure that Shadow would be blown apart the moment he appeared. Then a streak of light sliced through the Stone Overseer's face, cracks spread across its body, and Huang Ziqing screamed in panic as Shadow broke out from the inside. Shadow erupted with a quadruple instant shadow slash that destroyed the golem and caught the nearby ambushers in a wave of sword beams, deleting them on the spot. The system announced the death of the 9 Realms Stone Overseer, canceling the abyssal domain and washing away the slowing mud. The surviving invaders lost their minds in pure terror. unable to understand how Shadow had just used skills inside a sealed domain and one-shot an epic boss with over 100 million damage. The entire battlefield froze in shock as the giant stone overseer got destroyed in a single hit. The enemy army panicked, unable to understand how Shadow could use an attack when the abyssal domain was supposed to block every skill. The foreign invaders screamed that he had to be hacking to pull off something so ridiculous. Shadow, however, stayed perfectly calm, satisfied that his planned strike had taken down Huang Ziking instantly. The trick was simple but brilliant. Our boy had charged his instant Shadow Slash inside his cosmic trial space, and the moment the move began, he dropped out of that realm, letting the fully charged attack land in the game world and skip the skill silence completely. Since he had already predicted Zeking's hiding spot, he erased him on the spot and removed the movement slow. And even if the hit had missed, the dash would have still carried him safely into the enemy lines. Better yet, spending just 10 points of divinity let Shadow pull anyone he killed straight into his trial space, and with over 1,000 points left, every enemy death only fed his power. Looking at the stunned enemies around him, Shadow felt nothing but contempt. To him, all these arrogant guild leaders and invaders were just stepping stones. High above, Kibi clapped happily, honestly amazed that Blue Star's top player had tripled his strength in such a short time. But he also admitted that letting Shadow grow any stronger would be a huge threat, so he decided it was time to end the battle. He pushed his hand into his own chest, dark veins spread across his body, and a massive storm of black feathers swallowed the blood-red sky. Zentiel and Zeking celebrated, thrilled that the death-winged angel was finally getting serious, though Zeking still complained that the boss had taken too long to step in. Meanwhile, Kibi curled into a pulsing red sphere as his health bar dropped at crazy speed. Shadow read the pattern right away. The angel was burning his own life to fuel a massive attack. With almost no intel on the boss's ultimate moves, Shadow knew better than to face it head-on. A boss using a self-damaging skill at that exact moment had to be hiding a deadly trap. So instead of waiting, Shadow flashed across the battlefield in the blink of an eye. He appeared in front of a stunned Zentiel, grabbed Huang Ziking by the skull, and crushed him before the red light could even land. Right on cue, Kibi's ultimate skill, Death Then Rebirth, exploded across the city. By sacrificing his entire life bar, the angel released a giant soul shockwave 1 kilometer wide, and anyone killed inside it faced absolute, permanent death. The blinding red blast tore through the battlefield, instantly wiping out Song Xiaoyu, Zentiel, and every nearby player while stealing their souls to feed the boss. Thousands of erased souls got pulled into the vortex, their stolen life force merging into one overwhelming source of power. From the edge of the ruins, Wang Meng and Captain Anyu watched the explosion swallow the city center, and Wang Meng ordered the whole squad to pull back. If the blast collected enough souls, the angel would trigger a complete rebirth, break through its limits, and step onto the path of godhood. And that's exactly what happened. Emerging from the light, the boss evolved into a level 50 legendary monster, the Light-Winged Angel. Spreading pure white wings, it celebrated its breakthrough, believing Blue Star's #1 player had been killed in the blast and trapped forever inside its body. But the celebration died instantly. Across the smoking ruins, the angel spotted the level 999 executioner of slaughter still standing on the rubble. Horror hit the angel. The mythic executioner only stayed on the field if its target was still alive, which meant Shadow had survived an unavoidable, soul-erasing explosion. The only explanation was a spatial ability, something exclusive to mythical primordial grade skills. The idea that a human had mastered primordial power in less than a month terrified the angel, who realized that staying on Blue Star for one more second was suicide. In pure panic, it tore open a huge dimensional rift, admitted this world could no longer be controlled, and ran off into the cosmos as the system confirmed the boss had left the realm. When the smoke cleared, a massive crater sat where the battlefield used to be. Wang Meng and Little Black wondered what kind of terrifying explosion could wipe out the entire enemy army in a single breath. Little Black spotted the mythic executioner in the center and realized the whole setup had been an ambush by the American invaders to assassinate Shadow. But no one could find any trace of our boy. Fearing the worst, she and Wang Meng burst into tears, terrified that Great Sia's strongest fighter was gone. In reality, Shadow was completely fine, standing calmly inside his cosmic trial realm. While down in its endless maze, a trapped Huang Ziking screamed for revenge. Shadow radioed Captain Anyu for a status report, and the moment she heard his voice, she cried with pure joy, shouting to the team that he was alive, leaving our boy a little confused by the emotional breakdown. She explained that the city center had been blown into a giant pit, the angel had evolved and left the realm, and every enemy player had vanished permanently without respawning. Putting the pieces together, Shadow understood the blast had been a sacrifice skill built to feed the angel enough souls to force its evolution. Even so, he wasn't worried. Thanks to Big Eye's intel, he knew a legendary great angel could be summoned back with a specific item, and he fully planned to settle the score for the strike against Osiris. Down in the trial space, Ziking hung nailed to a stone pillar, desperately trying to activate his abyssal domain, only to find that none of his skills worked there. Shadow announced that Sinner Huang Ziking's judgment had officially begun.